Welcome my friends, this is Maniacal Inc, and no, this isn't blood on my hands, it's paint. Myself and the menacing hooded figures chanting behind me, we're redecorating. Anyway, forget about that. What I want to talk to you about today is a demo I played during the recent Steam Next Fest. It's called Liberty, or Liberté, developed by Superstatic Studio, and it's described as a story-driven, top-down roguelike set in an alternate history, Lovecraftian version of the French Revolution. This description alone was enough for me to download the demo, and I am glad I did. The tone is set from the get-go. We're told nonchalantly in the introduction that King Louis has killed himself, and we then meet Anna, the leader of the rebel faction who plans to assassinate his successor during his coronation. The short scenario shown in the demo takes place 2 weeks after the attempt on the new monarch's life ends in failure, and the rebels are now held in low regard for the anarchy that they have unleashed. Their ultimatum to the tribe demanding medical supplies is rejected, and the player must now decide which of the factions they will support. The full game will feature 4 factions, all with conflicting aims: the rebels, the tribe, the aristocracy, and the mysterious congregation. Continuously favouring one faction over the others will see Paris reshaped in their image, lending weight to the player's decision of who to fight for. Speaking of which, I thoroughly enjoy the combat in this demo. Equipped with just a sword, there are the simple basics of slashing and dodging, but winning combats grants cards to the player with which to refine their playstyle. At the start of the demo mission, you're asked to pick between the Pistolier and Assassin decks. This basically represents a choice of class and defines what cards you will be awarded during the mission. As the name implies, the Pistolier can gain a powerful ranged attack, while the Assassin can turn invisible and backstab from the shadows. The devs have mentioned that they are also working on a Saboteur deck, which will allow the player utilize the Parisian crowd itself, having them fight on your side or even block the enemy, giving their lives for the glory of France, whether they want to or not.
You can hit the crowd? Oh, come on, why did I do that?
With an early access release planned for September, the devs have answered a lot of questions about what they are planning to do over on Liberté's Discord, but a lot of attention has been directed at 2 keywords, which have been used to describe the game. Liberté has already been criticised for daring to call itself a roguelike without strictly implementing the high-value factors of the Berlin interpretation. The demo, it has to be said, was very short, really more a proof of concept than anything else, and it didn't have much of an opportunity to demonstrate the roguelike features planned by the devs. They've described what we played through as a mission, a series of which, increasing in difficulty and taking place in procedurally generated levels, will comprise a single run of the game. The player will level up, acquire cards with which to become stronger or gain new abilities for the duration of the run, with these stats and unlocks resetting after a defeat. In this description, we can see many typical roguelike mechanics, but in the card system and the combat, we can see the potential for innovation that is a cornerstone of the genre. The cards unlocked during a run will grant the player special abilities which go into a cooldown when used, but this cooldown isn't time-based. Instead, it is decreased only by making successful basic attacks. As such, players won't be able to spam these abilities and then dodge out of the way until they become available again, and some of them will even become stronger if all others are in cooldown, making the choice of what abilities to take and when to use them all that more important. But to gain access to these abilities in the first place, you need to spend mana, which is gained by burning cards. So, will you hold on to an expensive card with a powerful ability you don't have the mana for yet, or will you burn it to gain access to something that will help you through the early fights? I'm really impressed by the potential this mechanic has, and I wouldn't be surprised to see specific forms or styles of combat emerging as players find combos of abilities that work well together for the various decks. While it might be up for debate just how roguelike Liberté is, it's also up for debate what exactly roguelike means. But that's not the only abstruse and difficult to define genre the devs have decided to build their game around. As the player runs around the narrow, grimy streets of Paris, they may suddenly find themselves face to face with an impossible green wall. Something that shouldn't be, but is. Stepping through, the player will enter a lush green pasture, filled with beautiful butterflies and the dismembered corpse of a giant woman, and what were once simple citizens like you, driven mad and transformed into fungal beasts by an inexplicable, otherworldly infestation. This is the bliss, which has seen fit to descend on Paris amidst the chaos of the French Revolution. I am not a fan of the horror genre. You couldn't pay me to watch a scary movie, but Lovecraftian horror, or at least its weird fiction elements like eldritch gods and the dangers of forbidden knowledge, that's a different story. As with roguelikes, there is a debate around what exactly is and isn't Lovecraftian, how it can be represented in video games, or if it's even possible to do so at all. At the moment, we haven't seen anything like sanity being represented in Liberté, a staple of Lovecraftian-inspired RPGs, but the devs have said that the Bliss will feature elements of body horror and cosmic horror, and have cited the movies Annihilation and, as they put it themselves, the beautifully bizarre creepiness of Midsummer.
What a lovely Midsummer!
Other than a few short combats and a maddening, unbidden glimpse of an eldritch entity somehow connected to the Bliss, we know very little of what Liberté will look like or how it will play. As I already mentioned, the demo was little more than a proof of concept, and the game is really just an elevator pitch at this stage. But what an elevator pitch it is! A story-driven, top-down roguelike set in an alternate history, Lovecraftian version of the French Revolution. And that's why I made this video. It's just the way of the world when there are so many demos out there, but I felt that Liberté was totally overlooked at Next Fest, and I think that it has tremendous potential. With the game in such an early stage, what the devs are looking for at the moment is feedback and suggestions, and you can give these by joining the Liberté Discord, which is linked in the description below, and I will also link the Steam page if you want to wishlist it. The devs are putting up new information on what they are working on daily, and everything is up for grabs at the moment, from the combat to aspects of the story, the mechanics, and the UI. There is a ton of stuff I didn't get to mention in this video, like that there will be a co-op mode, and the story will feature real historical figures. Literally play your cards right, and one mission will have you set out to kill Robespierre. Might we see a determined wolf tone searching Paris for allies, mortal or eldritch, in his bid to establish an independent Irish republic? Who knows? But if this sounds like a game you would be interested in, I strongly recommend you join the Liberté Discord to follow the game's development. And if it doesn't sound like something you'd be interested in, then I don't know what to say to you. Because I believe that Liberté has the potential to be the best Lovecraftian roguelike fencing simulator set in an alternate version of the French Revolution released this year. In fact, and I don't say this lightly, I think Liberté could be the best Lovecraftian roguelike fencing simulator set in an alternate version of the French Revolution ever. Only time, infinite and unknowable, will tell. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you again when you look into the darkest depths of the abyss. Or when I get back to doing videos on CK3.